Let's have solving linear equations in abstractions. Now you already know how to solve one-step equations with materials, and you're most likely solving them on your own. Let's take a few moments to formalize our language of inverses, which is what we are using to solve the equations. By the time you get to abstractions, you have probably known all types of solving one-step equations. Again, we have our materials, our units, our xp's, then we have our negative tiles, and then we have our fraction of x p's. So since this is our work in abstraction, let's try solving our equations without the use of our materials. Let's work on this problem. We have x plus 3 is equal to 9. Here we have two choices. One thing we can do is subtract 3. The other is add negative 3. In either case, we need to make that 3 into a 0. And so we have to undo the addition. Adding the opposite is one way to do that. And adding the opposite, because it is so common, has its own special name. Subtraction. We say that subtraction is the inverse of addition. When we do the inverse, we go back to where we started. So we start with x. Any set of operations when done consecutively that undo each other in this way are called inverses. So we have been using inverse operations this whole time. Let's say we have 8 is equal to x minus 2. Here we see that 2 is subtracted from x. If subtraction is the inverse of addition, then addition must be the inverse of subtraction. Here we need to undo negative 2, and we will do it by adding 2 to both sides. Here we need to undo negative 2, and we will do it by adding 2 to both sides. What about when we have 3x is equal to 2? Here, x is multiplied by 3. Now what we want is 1x. To get there, we had two choices. We could multiply by 1/3 or divide by 3. Multiplying by the reciprocal always gets us 1. And this is the inverse of multiplication, multiplying by the reciprocal. There is another name for multiplying by the reciprocal, and this is called division. So we can say that division is the inverse of multiplication. Every time we see a number multiplied by x, we can get rid of it by multiplying by the reciprocal or dividing. The exception to this is that we cannot undo multiplication by 0. What about x over 6 is equal to negative 3? Here we have x divided by 6. But what is the inverse of division? It is multiplication. So we can solve this by multiplying by 6. So here we have 6x over 6 is equal to negative 18. Or simply say x is equal to negative 18. Now let's work on some more exercises.